I'm British and a lord.
Hi guys, welcome back to Wessin World. I'm Wes and I'm currently in your world, and this will be my meditation episode, so episode 4. Thank you very much for joining me, and I'm going to keep doing these because they're just so easy, and I can keep it consistent with obviously the view as well, because quarantine. So yeah, thank you for joining me again, and this one was about meditation, and it is a stupid idea to not engage with meditation. This has been an extreme belief that I have held for a very long time. It does annoy quite a few people. I think this needs to be prettier. We need prettier background. There we go. Yeah, so it is a stupid idea to not center yourself and prepare yourself for what life has to offer you. And my reasoning behind this extreme opinion is that every human being needs a time or a chance to be able to detach from what it loves, from what it needs, from what it wants, from what it desires. Because all these things are things that your ego craves, but you essentially don't need. Well, that you essentially, but you do need sustenance. That's very important. Don't meditate on a hungry, on a hungry stomach. But for the most part, there are parts in your day where you can achieve complete peace, because there's a lot of times where the world doesn't require you to do anything. Now, a person full of ego would call this a period of boredom, but really it's just a period of time where you get to engage with some things that you may not have had the time to do because life is demanding. Instead, not me. So, as I described in my last video about gratitude, a meditation is just the ability to take a vacation from your life and to sink into what you essentially are, which is an orb of energy, which expands out and fills you, and then it becomes you, moving arms and legs and fingers and all sorts of stuff. And sometimes your energy your frequency of your energy can be a low frequency. It's very difficult to move. And that's because the energy, the vibrating frequency around you is so alive. It's difficult to move that low frequency through these high vibes. You've all been in a low frequency state, depressed, sad, had bad news. And there's someone around you that's just so upbeat and so happy they just annoy you. Their frequency is difficult to comprehend because you're not vibrating at that frequency. So, if you've eaten, if you've slept, and you've taken care of all your major faculties, and you're still stressed, and you're still worried, and you still feels like there's no escape from this mind that can't stop slapping you around, you need a break from all of these conflicting desires and these conflicting wants and these conflicting worldviews. A lot of it's hypocritical, because and number one hypocritical sort of opinion, we look down on other cultures for eating dogs, but we eat cows just because of our view on dogs. That's a discrepancy in the human thinking pattern. There's no logic to that. It doesn't make any sense. It does make sense if you think culturally, but it doesn't make sense objectively. They're different to us. Why? Because they eat different animals, because there's different animals indigenous to that population, to that climate. Yeah, basically. But yeah, so every human being needs a way to be able to escape these conflicting worldviews, because we do all have them. I've got loads of hypocritical opinions that don't really come together, and and this is a place where I get to vent them, and you get to watch it. Yeah. So all of this stuff, even just that, where I change my accent, even that is just a surface level of who I am. just the accent, the language I speak, the skin, the bones, the muscle, all of that surface. And what you want to do with meditation is you just repeat 2 words or a word. And what you want to do is you want to make that word your focal point in your mind, your mind's eye. Sit back and just sink into yourself with only that word repeating in your mind. And what you're doing there is you're sort of sharpening a pencil. The pencil being your consciousness. You're sharpening that so that when you come back, you're not afflicted with all of these desires, wants, They exist all outside of you for you then to move into. And then you sort of, the only problem with life is that it gets into you. It's real deep past the surface, and it can get into your soul. And that's really the only way to lose your mind, is when you become more the world than you are you. You're not fighting for what you want anymore. You're fighting for what's right in the world, which is the ultimate enlightenment. But you can't get there being a slave. You have to be a servant. You can't get to the point of enlightenment through being a slave. You have to be, well, I suppose there's a few slaves that reached enlightenment through arduous tasking and then just became an ultimate servant. But then you still become a cog to a larger, more destructive industry, which is the slave trader buying slaves, making use of all these people because they meditate. This is also a side of meditation that is annoying. Anything that can be invented can be weaponized. Like meditation was being used by some property developers, so they were sending in mindfulness teachers into residential areas that couldn't afford the rent increases, so it was making them okay with what was happening to them, so that they were like, yeah, that's fine, we'll just trust the universal. Yeah, you can weaponize meditation, but it doesn't mean meditation's bad. It means the application of it's bad. Drugs aren't bad. The application, the circumstances of them are bad. Oh, hold, stop the presses. Stop the presses. You gotta watch Midnight Gospel. You just gotta. Sorry, it's dropped on 420. 420's a woo! 420. It dropped on 420 on Netflix. Midnight Gospel. Watch that damn show. It takes a little bit of getting used to because it's a podcast within a story which is animated. So on that basis, it's kind of crazy. But they deal with death, they deal with sexuality, they deal with love, they deal with psychedelic drug use. All of these things that we are all. And I failed to find one person that is not curious about these questions. So watch that show. It's very good. He gets some really good people on the podcast, and it's Duncan Trussell, so it's always an incredibly enlightened, incredibly open, incredibly aware overview of the situation. Just a very good listener, that guy. Just a very good listener. Something that I'm trying to be better at. I don't know how I'm going to become better at it by making an online TV show where I just talk a lot, but really it's just to sort of spark the debate. I'm just here sparking the debate, and this one's, if I can drag it back to meditation, you need time in your day to focus on one word in your mind, and that one word is going to be your hand reaching out from you, the core of who you are, that word, and it's going to grab your consciousness and your attention, and it's going to pull you into the unformed spiritual mass that exists within the center of you, which is what you are, which is God, which is the same thing as all of us. It's the same thing. It's not the Christian or the Catholic God. Obviously they describe it with great detail, but really I believe that the Bible is only good for the encrypted messages that are in there that people have misread. I can't think of anything right now. So, be still and you shall know me. Jesus. I think that's... I went to Sunday school. Come on, dude. Come on, dude. You got to claw away at that childhood. There's something in there. No, I can't remember it, but you'll find it. be still and you shall know me. You may know the line anyway, but it was Jesus' line. And it was just, be still. And usually in the Hindu religion they use a mantra. And mantra literally means word that liberates the mind, or words that liberate the mind, or however many more translations of that word. But basically that's what I feel it is. And there's certain mantras that lead you to certain journeys, lead you to certain principles, lead you to certain gods that are supposed to give you a life lesson. So you pray to to get more of this in your life, but really it's just a realization that changes your perception, which changes your behavior, which changes your decisions, which changes your life. So when we talk about, obviously, attraction, attracting things into our life that we want, really all we're talking about is we go deep within ourselves to have a realization that changes our mindset, that changes our perception, which changes our view of the landscape. So if you're happier, you make decisions based on further and vitality and adventure, and you want to adventure and you want to get out there. If you look out and you see like in my last video, if you see a blue tinted window, you are going to see you're going to make decisions based on safety, because you're going to think that the world outside is a wasteland. So, and this is the way that we see things. It's not a depressive person, it's just a period of depression that you go through, that every human being feels. Existential crisis, existential celebration, all of these things exist within the same space. It just depends on where you're focusing and what you can give birth to using your rational mind at that time. But it's all fundamentally from a basis. If your frequency is low, you will see a low wasteland out there. And this is obviously something that we have to be aware of, because then you are just the awareness of emotion. You aren't the emotion itself. So if you can have 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes of meditation a day, you will be amazing. Again, you will feel amazing. And this isn't me just pushing an idea. I'm not pushing religion, not pushing gods, not pushing spirituality. I mean, physiologically, biologically. So I was thinking about this the other day. I put that a hunter, a predator, can sense its prey's temperament because of its high level of sensitivity in the landscape. So it can see shaking, it can see its prey shaking because it's nervous. That is easy prey. But if your prey is very calm, that's very mysterious. So let me see if I can get this up. Actually, I'll because I've got to go verbatim with this one, because I quite like. So a predator can see the temperament of its prey. It can see its nervousness. A calm mind is the most vicious and ferocious prey it can come across. Unfortunately, it makes them the tastiest. So there's always more interest in ones that shine. So being calm of mind protects you from, but beware, there's always one predator that will try its luck. Lucky for you, the calm brings many new abilities. Live strong through being prepared. The prepared are the most present. I wrote that just like because I had a thought about predators and prey. So the most prepared are the most calm. And predators usually can see the landscape and they can see who's the easy prey. Not saying obviously the predators are lions, not saying that someone's trying to get you, not saying the government is a big 5G conspiracy. Not saying that. I'm not saying that you're saying that I'm saying that, but what I'm saying is a calm mind is very, very useful in the world. And how do we get a calm mind? We become spirits embodying a body, enjoying the world. Because all that out there is for you. happening with you, not at you. So it's important to be able to remember that. How we remember that is that we return to source. And how do we do that? We focus on a word, and then we follow that word inwards. And I know that sounds very strange, to follow inwards. What you do, you use your attention of your conscious mind to focus on a word. If you imagine a cone, your mind on a loop will dive. And on the top you've got like physical matter, and then you go a little bit further in as we get down the cone of consciousness, and then you get into subatomic particles. You get into what the hell string theory is. That's still the commonly known, hailed, I think it's still the high up I forgot the name now. Physics. The explanation for physics, the smallest form of what we know as matter, can now be explained as string theory, which is tiny orbs with little strings inside, and the vibrations of those strings directly comes into play when they're next to. So say like a particle of wood is next to another particle of wood. They're vibrating at the same frequency, so they band together. That holds them together, that frequency. So with the smallest amount of matter, you get to the base, and that's also where you're traveling using that word, sinking into consciousness. You're going back to source, and the source is where all this came out of. Your body, this table, this keyboard, these stones. And interestingly enough, these stones actually vibrated at different frequencies. So that's why people use stones for healing. It's not bullshit. It's just science we have not discovered yet. So yeah. So back to meditation anyway. I've made a whole 17-minute long video about meditation. Oh god. This is bad. So I'm used to just whizzing at people like. But I hope that I've explained meditation in a way that seems possible. Because that's the big thing. It's just like, you need to think, I could definitely just repeat a word for 10 minutes. Can't be too hard. I mean, it is me that owns this brain. So surely I could direct it in ways and regain that control of your focus. Because that's what it's all about. So thank you very much for joining me. This wasn't supposed to be a whole episode about meditation, but you know we do. You know how we do it. And I will answer a question at the end of this as well, making it a 20-minute long video, but I thought I would answer this question in the podcast just to make it a little bit more exciting. So Amber, thank you very much for commenting on the last video. You said, what's the best piece of advice that you've received and given? Whoa, I actually forgot that end. What's the best piece of advice you've ever given? The best piece of advice I've ever given. No, the best piece of advice I've ever received was actually getting drunk at a friend's house. This wasn't like a shaman. This wasn't like a yogi. This wasn't. So like, best piece of advice I got given was by Jaffa, a friend of mine, which is really funny. Jaffa turned to me drunk at one party one time, and I'll always love him for this. And I don't want to blow up his ego or anything like that, because he was drunk as fuck too. I'm definitely going to still swear. I'll definitely got to swear. But yeah, so he turned to me and I was like, oh man, I can't even think. And he turned to me and he said, what you trying to think for? And it tore my soul apart. Well, it definitely embedded an idea in my mind, because it made me think, yeah, why am I thinking? Everyone here is just expecting me to be me. Why am I thinking about being me when I'm me? It was like a spell cast on my mind. And I'm glad that I got to share that with you guys. And best piece of advice I've ever given. I don't know, man. I'm always talking. Best piece of advice I've ever given. I'm gonna go with the cheap one and just say everyone needs time in their day where they can leave their desires. you must leave your desires and your wants and your needs and your plans. Your plans will still be there in 10 minutes, I promise. But you must, as a human being, be able to leave this world mentally for 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes a day. Whatever you can do. Set a timer. Repeat one word. And leave it all. And you'll come back. You'll have so much more of a good time in this life. Because you'll be able to see it as an observer of it. Not as a character in it. Which you are. But you're much better at being a character in it when you think you're the person playing the video game. Because you take more chances. You do more, you work more, and you don't mind doing it because it's an experience again. It's not attacking you. But yeah, thank you very much for joining me. I am Wes. I have been Wes, I hope, to the fullest extent that I can be. There's no truer version than this, I don't think. But yeah, so thank you very much for joining me. Stay blessed. Don't stress. You never knew what was next anyway. So don't worry. Just enjoy.
We've been the best since I stepped in. Bring a hooker to the motherfucking Jets in the sack, break a